The invitation from the Kiran Empire arrived on Earth 3 weeks after the Galactic Summit ended. It caused great excitement in the human government. The Kiran were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They had never invited a human to their homeworld before. Many saw this as a sign that humanity was finally being accepted by the ancient powers. Te was chosen to answer the invitation. He was the best diplomat Earth had. His success at the summit had made him famous. People said he could calm any storm with his words. They said he could make friends of enemies. But Te was nervous. He had heard rumors about why the Empress wanted to see him. Whispers followed him through the halls of the Earth government. People said that Princess Vila had taken an interest in him. Some laughed at the idea. A human with an alien princess? Impossible. Others warned him to be careful. The Kiran were dangerous. Their Empress was known for her sharp mind and cold heart. Te did not know what to believe. He remembered Princess Vela from the summit. He had seen her watching him from across crowded rooms. He had felt her purple eyes on him during meetings. And he remembered that brief moment in the communication room when she had asked him why he risked so much for strangers. She had seemed genuinely curious, almost vulnerable. He had thought about her often since then, though he told himself it was foolish. She was a princess of an ancient empire. He was just a diplomat from a young planet. The distance between them was greater than the stars. Still, when he boarded the ship to Kira, his heart beat faster than it should. The journey took 2 weeks. Te spent the time learning everything he could about Kiran culture. He studied their history, their customs, their language. He practiced the formal greetings and memorized the rules of their court. He wanted to show respect. He wanted to prove that humans could learn and adapt. When his ship finally arrived at Kira, he was amazed by what he saw. The planet was beautiful beyond words. Great cities of crystal and light covered its surface. Gardens floated in the sky. Rivers of silver flowed between mountains of gold. It was like something from an old Earth fairy tale. A royal escort brought him to the palace. He walked through halls that had stood for 10,000 years. Servants watched him with curious eyes. Guards stood at every corner, their faces hard and suspicious. He was clearly not welcome here, but he kept walking. The throne room was the largest chamber Te had ever seen. Its ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed inside it. Pillars of crystal held up the roof. Light came from everywhere and nowhere at once. And there, on a throne of pure starlight, sat Empress Sora. She was the most beautiful and terrifying woman Te had ever seen. Her silver hair glowed like a crown of moonlight. Her purple eyes were cold as winter stars. Power radiated from her like heat from a sun. This was a woman who had ruled an empire for 500 years. This was a woman who had ordered the destruction of entire fleets. This was a woman who could end his life with a single word. Te walked forward and knelt before her. Your Imperial Majesty, I am Te of Earth. I thank you for your gracious invitation. His Kiran pronunciation was not perfect, but it was close. He had practiced for hours. Ara studied him for a long moment. So, you are the human who has captured my daughter's attention. Te's heart jumped, but he kept his face calm. I am honored that Princess Vela remembers me, Your Majesty. Remember you? She speaks of nothing else. The Empress's voice was sharp. She has convinced herself that you are some kind of special being, that you represent the future of the galaxy. Tell me, human, do you believe this about yourself? No, Your Majesty. I am just a man. I am not special. I simply try to do what is right. And what is right? By whose measure? Te thought carefully before answering. By the measure of my own heart, and by the measure of how my actions affect others. I try to leave people better than I found them. I try to help more than I harm. Pretty words. Sora stood up from her throne and walked down the steps toward him. But words are easy. Let us see if there is any truth behind them. What followed was the hardest day of Tay's life. The Empress tested him in every way she could imagine. She asked him questions about history, philosophy, and ethics. Some questions had clear answers. Others were traps, designed to make him contradict himself. She asked him about Earth's wars, its failures, its darkest moments. She demanded to know how he could be proud of a species that had caused so much pain to itself. Tay answered honestly. He did not try to hide humanity's mistakes. He spoke of the wars and the hatred, the cruelty and the greed. But he also spoke of the hope and the healing, the love and the sacrifice. He spoke of humans who had given their lives for strangers. He spoke of forgiveness after the worst betrayals. He spoke of the never-ending human desire to be better. "We are not perfect," he said. "We may never be perfect, but we never stop trying. That is what makes us human." The Empress ordered him to solve a conflict between two noble houses. The dispute had lasted for 100 years. Countless Kiran mediators had failed to resolve it. She expected him to fail as well. Tay spent hours listening to both sides. He did not take notes. He did not interrupt. He simply listened, really listened, in a way that made each person feel truly heard. And when they were finished, he did not offer a solution. Instead, he asked them a question. When you look back at the end of your life, will this conflict be what you want to remember? Or will you wish you had spent that time on something else? The two nobles looked at each other. For the first time in 100 years, they saw not enemies, but fellow beings with limited time. They agreed to end their dispute. The Empress sent assassins to test his courage. They attacked him in the garden at midnight, cloaked in shadow. Tay did not fight back. He did not run. He stood his ground and spoke to them. "I know you are following orders," he said calmly. "I do not blame you. But I ask you to consider this. When you wake up tomorrow, will you be proud of what you did tonight? Or will you carry this weight forever?" The assassins hesitated. They had killed many targets before, but none had ever spoken to them like this. None had ever treated them as thinking beings with their own choices. They lowered their weapons and disappeared into the night. The Empress watched all of this from her tower. She saw the human face every challenge with the same quiet strength. She saw him win over her nobles, her servants, even her assassins. Not with power or tricks, but with simple honesty and genuine kindness. She began to understand what her daughter had seen in him. The final test came on the third day. Sora called Tay to her private chamber. It was a simple room, plain compared to the grand throne hall. Here, she was not an empress. She was just a mother. "If I allow this," she said, "if I allow you to be with my daughter, you will face hatred from every corner of the galaxy. Species that have ruled for millions of years will look down on you. They will call you an animal, a pet, a temporary toy. Can you endure this?" "I can. My daughter will outlive you by 1,000 years. You will grow old while she remains young. You will die while she watches. Can you accept this?" Tay's eyes grew sad, but he did not look away. "I would rather have a short time with someone I love than an eternity alone. And I would rather give her whatever years I have than let fear keep us apart. You speak of love." Sora's voice was sharp. "Do you love my daughter? You have barely spoken to her. You do not know her." "You are right," Tay admitted. "I do not know her well, but I know what I felt when I saw her. I felt that the universe had put someone special in my path. I felt that if I walked away, I would regret it forever. Perhaps that is not love yet, but it is the start of something that could become love. And I believe that is worth fighting for." Sora was silent for a long time. Then, slowly, she began to smile. it was a small smile, barely visible. But it was there. "You are not what I expected," she said quietly. "You are not what I wanted for my daughter. But perhaps you are what she needs." Tay hardly dared to breathe. "You have passed my tests, human. All of them. I do not know what the future holds. I do not know if this path will lead to happiness or heartbreak. But I have seen your heart, and it is good." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Welcome to the Kiran family, Tay of Earth." The Galactic Summit ended after 2 weeks. Ships from 100 worlds departed Station Orion, returning to their home planets across the stars. Treaties had been signed. Agreements had been made. The great powers went home satisfied, already planning how to use their new advantages. Princess Viola returned to her homeworld of Kira in the royal transport. The journey took 3 days through hyperspace. She spent most of that time alone in her chamber, thinking. Her guard Hana brought her meals and tried to start conversations, but Vela answered with only a few words. She was lost inside her own mind, replaying every moment she had spent watching the human named Tay. She remembered how he had stood up to the Borax warrior with nothing but a smile. She remembered how he had stopped the fight between the Phoenix and Karathi with simple words of wisdom. She remembered how he had offered human technology freely, asking for nothing but friendship. She remembered how he had sent his ship to save strangers, risking his own people because it was the right thing to do. She remembered his warm, brown eyes and gentle smile. The royal transport landed in the great city of Lyra, capital of the Kiran Empire. The palace stood at the city's heart, a tower of crystal and light that had stood for 10,000 years. Vela had been born here. She had lived here all her life. But as she walked through the familiar halls, everything felt different. Her mother was waiting in the throne. Empress, Sora was a woman of great beauty and greater power. Her silver hair was arranged in an elaborate style that showed her rank. Her purple eyes were sharp and intelligent. She had ruled the Kiran Empire for 500 years, guiding her people through wars and peace with equal skill. She was loved by her subjects and feared by her enemies. She was also very good at reading people, especially her own daughter. "Vela," she said, watching the princess approach the throne. "You seem different." Vela knelt before her mother, as tradition demanded. "I am the same as I have always been, mother." "No." Sora leaned forward slightly. "Something has changed. Tell me about the summit." Vela gave her report. She spoke of the treaties and agreements, the conflicts and resolutions. She mentioned which empires had grown stronger and which had weakened. She gave all the information a princess should give to her empress. But Sora was not satisfied. "You have not told me everything," the empress said. "I can see it in your eyes. There is something else. Something personal." Vela hesitated. She had not planned to speak about this. Not yet. She needed more time to understand her own feelings. But her mother's eyes were fixed on her, demanding the truth. "There was a human?" Vela said quietly. Sora raised an eyebrow. "A human? The primitive species from Earth?" "Yes, mother. Their lead diplomat. His name is Tay. And what about this human has changed my daughter so deeply that she returns home with stars in her eyes?" Vela felt her face grow warm. She had not realized she was so obvious. He was different, unlike anyone I have ever met. He had no power, no wealth, no ancient bloodline. Yet he commanded respect through his actions. He stopped conflicts with words. He helped strangers without asking for reward. He was kind to everyone, from the highest lord to the lowest servant. Sora listened in silence. Her expression gave nothing away. "In 300 years, Vela continued, I have met countless princes from countless worlds. They all wanted to impress me with their strength or their wealth. They saw me as a prize to be won. But this human, He did not try to impress anyone. He simply was himself. Good, kind, brave in a way that does not need weapons. And so? Sora asked. What are you saying, daughter? Vela took a deep breath. She had made her decision during those 3 days of travel. She knew how impossible it sounded. She knew the problems it would cause. But her heart would not be denied. She looked up at her mother, her purple eyes bright with determination. Mom, I want him. The words hung in the air between them. Sora stared at her daughter in shock. For a long moment, she did not move. She did not speak. The Empress, who had faced down enemy fleets and hostile empires, was struck speechless by 5 simple words. You want a human? She finally asked. Her voice was carefully controlled, but Vela could hear the disbelief beneath it. Yes, a human. A member of a species that discovered space travel only a few hundred years ago. A species that lives for less than a century. A species that most of the galaxy considers barely above animals. He is not like what you have heard, Vela said firmly. He is wise beyond his years. He is gentle but not weak. He makes me feel things I have never felt before. When I am near him, the galaxy seems brighter. When I am away from him, I can think of nothing else. Sora stood up from her throne. She walked down the steps and stood before her daughter. Do you understand what you are asking? You are my only heir. You will one day rule the Kirin Empire. Your partner will stand beside you on the throne. And you want to bring a human to that position? I know it seems impossible. Our people live for 1,000 years. Humans live for less than 100. You would watch him grow old and die in what feels like a single moment. I know. Other empires will laugh at us. They will say the Kirin have gone mad, that we have lowered ourselves to mate with primitives. Let them laugh. They laughed at the humans too. But I saw what those primitives can do. I saw them show more honor in 1 week than most species show in 1,000 years. Sora studied her daughter's face. She was looking for doubt, for uncertainty, for any sign that this was just a passing fancy. But she found only determination. You truly care for this human, she said slowly. It was not a question. I do not just care for him, Mother. I believe he is the one the ancient prophecies spoke of. The one from beyond the stars who would bring new strength to our people. The one who would change everything. Sora laughed bitterly. Those prophecies are just old stories. They are not meant to be taken seriously, are they not? The prophecies say that when the old ways grow tired, a new light will come from an unexpected place. They say that this light will not conquer with weapons, but with wisdom. They say that those who embrace this light will rise higher than ever before, while those who reject it will fall into darkness. Vela grabbed her mother's hands. Mother, I have seen this light. It shines from a small blue planet called Earth. It shines from a man named Teddy. Sora was quiet for a long time. You were always stubborn, she said at last. Even as a child, once you decided something, nothing could change your mind. Mother, I am not saying yes. Sora held up a hand. I am not saying no either. I am saying that this is a matter that requires serious thought. The fate of our empire could depend on this decision. Then meet him, Vela said eagerly. Let him come to Kira. Let him prove himself to you as he proved himself to me. You want me to summon a human diplomat to the Kirin homeworld? Yes. If he is not worthy, you will see it. But if he is everything I believe him to be, then you will understand why I want him. Sora sighed. She had raised this daughter alone after her husband died in the Valoran War. She had taught her to be strong, to be wise, to put duty above personal desire. But she had also taught her to trust her heart, and now that heart had chosen a human. Very well, the Empress said. I will send an invitation to Earth. This human, this Tay, will be summoned to our court. I will test him myself. I will see if he is worthy of my daughter." Vila's face lit up with joy. "Thank you, Mother." "Do not thank me yet," Sora warned. "My test will not be easy. If he fails, you must accept my judgment. You must forget this foolish dream and choose a proper partner from among our own people or our allies." "He will not fail," Vela said with confidence. "You will see, Mother. Humans are stronger than anyone knows. And Tay is the strongest of them all." Sora looked at her daughter and saw something she had not seen in many years. Hope? She prayed silently that this hope would not lead to heartbreak. The days that followed were filled with meetings, negotiations, and formal dinners. The Galactic Summit continued as it always had for thousands of years. Great empires argued over trade routes. Small nations begged for protection. Everyone tried to gain something for themselves. But Princess Viola was no longer bored. She found herself watching the human delegation whenever she could. She changed her schedule so she could attend the same meetings as them. She chose seats where she could see the human named Tay without being too obvious. Her guard, Hana, noticed but said nothing. She knew her princess well enough to know that questions would not be welcome. Vela told herself she was simply curious. Humans were a new species in the galactic community. It was smart to learn about them. It was her duty as a princess to understand all the races of the galaxy. But deep in her heart, she knew it was more than that. On the second day of the summit, there was a meeting about resource sharing. Many species needed rare minerals that were found on only a few planets. The discussion quickly became heated. Representatives shouted over each other. They made threats and accusations. The chairman tried to restore order, but failed. Tay sat quietly through most of the argument. He listened to every speaker with full attention. He took notes on a small device. He did not interrupt or try to make himself heard over the noise. Finally, when the shouting had died down a little, he raised his hand. The chairman looked surprised. "The representative from Earth wishes to speak?" Tay stood up. He was shorter than almost everyone in the room. His uniform was plain compared to the fancy robes and armor worn by others. But when he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. "I have listened to everyone here today," he said. "Each of you has needs. Each of you has fears. I understand this. On Earth, we also fought over resources for many centuries. We almost destroyed ourselves." A few delegates laughed. "And what did your primitive species learn from nearly destroying yourselves?" asked a tall alien with blue skin. Tay smiled gently. "We learned that there is always enough if we are willing to share. We learned that cooperation creates more wealth than competition. And we learned that the strongest nations are not those with the most weapons, but those with the most friends." The room was quiet. "I am not wise enough to solve your problems," Tay continued. "But I can offer a suggestion. Instead of fighting over existing resources, perhaps we could work together to find new ones. Human scientists have developed new scanning technology. It is not as advanced as yours, but it works in ways that your systems do not. We would be happy to share this technology freely, without asking for anything in return. Perhaps if we all share our knowledge, we can find enough for everyone." The delegates looked at each other. The idea was so simple that it surprised them. In a galaxy where everyone fought for advantage, the humans were offering to give something away for free. "Why would you do this?" asked the blue-skinned alien. "What do you gain?" Tay's answer was simple. "Friends. On Earth, we have a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We are a young species. We want to go far. We want to go with all of you." Vila felt her breath catch in her chest. She had lived for over 300 years. She had met emperors and warlords, geniuses and fools. But she had never met anyone quite like this human. After the meeting, she followed him at a distance. She watched as he spoke with the younger members of his team. He did not act like their superior. He treated them as equals. He asked for their opinions. He laughed at their jokes. When one young woman made a mistake in her report, he did not scold her. He simply helped her correct it and told her she was doing a good job. That evening, there was a formal dinner. Vela sat at the high table with other royalty. She had a perfect view of the lower tables where the minor delegates sat. The human team was placed in the farthest corner, the least honorable position. But Tay did not seem to care. He talked happily with whoever sat near him. An old delegate from a dying species sat alone, ignored by everyone. Tay stood up, walked over, and sat beside him. For the rest of the evening, he listened as the old alien told stories of his people's history. When the old one's eyes grew wet with tears, Tay placed a hand on his shoulder and spoke words that Vala could not hear. The old alien smiled for the first time in years that Vila could not eat. She could barely breathe. Something was happening to her that she did not understand. On the third day, there was a crisis. A ship carrying supplies for the summit had been attacked by pirates. Several crew members were injured, and the supplies were stolen. The summit leaders were furious. They argued about who should send ships to chase the pirates. No one wanted to risk their own forces for someone else's supplies. Tay stood up. The human ship Evergreen is in this sector. We can send them. The chairman frowned. Your ships are slower and weaker than ours. The pirates will destroy them. Perhaps, Tay said. But those crew members need help now. We cannot wait while we argue. Let us go. If we fail, then you have lost nothing. If we succeed, then we have saved lives. Before anyone could stop him, he left the room to contact his ship. Vila found herself standing up without thinking. She walked out of the meeting hall. She found Tay in a communication room, speaking to his ship's captain. The pirates have 20 ships, he was saying. Yes, I know the risk. But we cannot leave those people to die. Do what you can. Protect the crew first. The supplies do not matter. He ended the call and turned around. He was surprised to see Vela standing there. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Your Highness, Tay said, bowing his head. Forgive me. I did not see you. Why? Vela asked. The word came out before she could stop it. Why what, Your Highness? Why risk your people? Those crew members are not human. They are not your responsibility. And the pirates are dangerous. Your ship could be destroyed. Tay looked at her with those warm brown eyes. Because they need help. Is there any other reason needed? Vila had no answer. In her 300 years of life, she had never met anyone who thought this way. Every species she knew calculated risks and rewards. They helped others only when it benefited themselves. But this human was sending his people into danger simply because someone needed help. You confuse me, she said quietly. Tay smiled, a gentle expression that made Vila's heart skip a beat. I am sorry, Your Highness. I do not mean to confuse. On Earth, we believe that all life has value. We believe that how we treat the weakest among us shows who we truly are. I am not a warrior. I am not wealthy. I am not powerful. But I can choose to help. That is enough for me. An hour later, news came. The human ship had reached the attacked vessel. They had fought the pirates and saved the crew. The Evergreen was damaged but still flying. No lives were lost. The summit hall erupted in surprise. A single human ship had done what the great powers had refused to do. That night, Vila could not sleep. She lay in her room staring at the ceiling, thinking about warm brown eyes and a gentle smile. She knew then that something had changed inside her, something that could never be changed back. The Great Hall of Station Orion was filled with beings from 100 different worlds. Lights of every color floated in the air. Music played softly in the background. This was the Galactic Summit, a meeting that happened only once every 50 years. Leaders, princes, and diplomats from across the known universe had gathered here to talk, trade, and show their power. Princess Viola stood near a tall window that looked out into the endless stars. She was tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like silver moonlight. Her eyes were deep purple, and her long white hair flowed down her back like a waterfall of snow. She was the only daughter of Empress Sora, ruler of the mighty Kirin Empire. The Kirin people were known throughout the galaxy for their beauty, their long lives, and their ancient wisdom. They had ruled their corner of space for 10,000 years. Vila was bored. She had attended many such events before. The same proud aliens showing off their wealth. The same empty words about peace and friendship. The same young princes trying to impress her with tales of their family's power. She had heard it all 1,000 times. "Your Highness," said her guard, a tall Kirin warrior named Hana. "The human delegation has arrived." Vala turned her head slightly. Humans. She had heard of them, of course. A young species from a small blue planet called Earth. They had only discovered space travel a few hundred years ago. In the eyes of the ancient races, they were practically children. Many species looked down on humans. They were short-lived, physically weak, and their technology was far behind most others. Why are they even here? Vala asked, her voice flat. They were invited as observers, Hana replied. The council wants to see if they are ready to join the galactic community. Vila nodded but said nothing. She expected nothing interesting from such a primitive species. The human delegation entered the hall. There were 5 of them, dressed in simple dark uniforms. They looked small and plain compared to the colorful aliens around them. Most of the other delegates barely glanced at them. A few even laughed quietly behind their hands, but one human caught Vila's eye. He walked at the front of the group. He was young, perhaps in his late 20s by human years. He had dark hair cut short and a calm face. His eyes were dark brown, warm and steady. He did not look around nervously like the others in his group. He walked with quiet confidence, his back straight, his steps even. He looked like a man who knew exactly who he was. His name was Tay. He was the lead diplomat of the human delegation. Velo watched as the group moved through the hall. Other species stepped aside, not out of respect, but because they did not want to be near the primitives. Tay noticed this, but his expression did not change. He simply nodded politely to anyone who met his eyes. A large delegate from the Borax Empire, a species known for their size and bad temper, stepped directly into Tay's path. The Borax was twice the human's height and 3 times his width. His rough gray skin was covered in scars. "Look at this," the Borax said loudly, so everyone could hear. "The little humans have come to play with the real powers of the galaxy." He laughed, a deep, ugly sound. Several other delegates laughed with him. Vila expected the human to step back, to apologize, to show fear. That was what anyone sensible would do when faced with a Borax warrior. But Tay did not move. He looked up at the massive alien and smiled. It was a gentle smile, warm and genuine. "You are right," Tay said. His voice was calm and clear. "We are new here. We have much to learn from the great peoples of the galaxy." He gave a small bow of his head. "I hope that during this summit, we can show that we are worthy of your time and friendship." The Borax stared at him. He had expected fear, anger, or shame. He did not know what to do with kindness. After a long moment, the Borax grunted and stepped aside. "We will see, little human. We will see." Tay nodded again and continued walking. Viola felt something stir inside her chest. She did not know what it was. Curiosity? Interest? She had seen thousands of beings try to impress others with their strength, their wealth, their power. But she had never seen anyone respond to mockery with such simple grace. Throughout the evening, Vela found her eyes following the human delegation. She watched as they moved from group to group, always polite, always humble, always listening more than speaking. She saw how Tay gently corrected a younger member of his team, who was about to make a mistake in greeting a Valari noble. She saw how he thanked the servant who brought him a drink, treating the worker with the same respect he showed the High Lords. Near the end of the night, an argument broke out between two delegations. The Phoenix and the Karathi had been enemies for centuries. Their representatives began shouting at each other, their hands reaching for weapons. The guards around the hall tensed. Other delegates stepped back, afraid of getting caught in the fight. But Tay stepped forward. Everyone stared. What was this human doing? "Honored representatives," Tay said, his voice cutting through the noise. He was not loud, but somehow everyone heard him. "I am new to this galaxy, so I do not know the history between your peoples. But I know that you are both here because you believe in something greater than war. You believe in a future where your children can live without fear." The two aliens turned to look at him. For a moment, Vela thought they might attack him. "On my world," Tay continued, "we have a saying. The first to offer peace is not weak. The first to offer peace is brave. I do not ask you to forget your history. I only ask you to remember why we are all here tonight." Silence filled the hall. Then, slowly, the Phoenix representative lowered his hand. The Karathi did the same. They looked at each other, then at the small human who had dared to speak to them. "Perhaps," the Phoenix said quietly, "we can continue this discussion tomorrow, with cooler heads." The Karathi nodded. "Perhaps." They walked away in opposite directions. The hall slowly returned to normal. But Vela could not look away from the human named Tay. He had done what no one else had dared to do. He had stopped a fight not with strength or threats, but with words and courage. Hana leaned close to her princess. That was unexpected. Vela did not answer. Her heart was beating faster than it should. She felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She wanted to know more about this human. Princess Vela had spent 3 days in agony. She was not allowed to see Tay during her mother's tests. She was not allowed to help him or warn him about what was coming. All she could do was wait in her chamber, pacing back and forth, imagining all the ways things could go wrong. She heard about the philosophical debates. She heard about the noble dispute. She heard about the assassins in the garden. Each piece of news made her heart pound harder. Each hour that passed felt like a year. When the summons finally came from her mother, Vela practically ran through the palace halls. She burst into her mother's private chamber, her silver hair flowing wildly behind her, her purple eyes bright with desperate hope. Tay was there. He was standing beside her mother. He looked tired, but he was smiling. That gentle, warm smile that had captured Vela's heart from the very beginning. "Mother?" Vala asked, afraid to believe what she was seeing. "Does this mean—" Empress Sora turned to face her daughter. For a moment, she said nothing. She simply looked at Vela's face, seeing the love and hope written there as clearly as words on a page. "It means," Sora said slowly, "that I have made my decision." Vela held her breath. "This human has passed every test I could create. He has shown wisdom beyond his years. He has shown courage without violence. He has shown kindness to those who showed him none. He is not what I wanted for you, Vela, but he is a good man. Perhaps the best I have ever met. Mother, I give my blessing." For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Vela stood frozen, unable to believe what she had heard. Then the tears came, flowing down her silver cheeks like rivers of starlight. She ran to her mother and hugged her tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sora held her daughter close. Do not thank me. This path will not be easy. There will be challenges ahead that neither of us can imagine. But if you are certain this is what you want, I am certain. Vila pulled back and looked at Tay. I have never been more certain of anything in my life. Tay stepped forward. His expression was serious now, but his eyes were warm. Your Highness, Vila, before anything else happens, I need to tell you something. Vila's heart skipped. What is it? I am just a man. I am not a prince. I am not a hero. I am not the chosen one from your prophecies. I am just Tay, a diplomat from a small blue planet that most of the galaxy has never heard of. He took a deep breath. I will grow old. My hair will turn gray. My face will wrinkle. My body will weaken. And one day, I will die. You will still be young and beautiful when I am nothing but a memory. Vila started to speak, but Tay held up his hand. Please, let me finish. I need you to understand what you are choosing. You are a princess. You could have anyone in the galaxy. You could have someone who will live as long as you do. Someone who will stand beside you for 1,000 years. Someone who will not break your heart by leaving too soon. I do not want someone else, Vila said softly. I know, but I need you to be sure. Because once we start down this path, there is no going back. I will give you everything I have. Every moment of my short human life will be yours. But I cannot give you forever. I can only give you now. Vila walked toward him. She was taller than he was. When they stood face to face, she had to look down slightly to meet his eyes. But somehow, standing there, they seemed equal. Two beings from different worlds, different species, different lives. Yet somehow, the same. On Kira, Vela said, we have a story about the first sunrise. It is said that when light first appeared in the universe, it lasted only a moment before darkness returned. But that one moment of light was so beautiful, so perfect, that the universe has been chasing it ever since. Every star, every sun, every fire that has ever burned is just the universe trying to capture that first light again. She reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were cool against his warm skin. You are my first light, Tay. I do not care how long you last. I only care that you are here now, with me. The universe may have given me 1,000 years, but without you, those years would be empty. With you, even a single day would be worth more than all the ages of darkness. Tay's eyes were wet. He blinked, and a tear rolled down his cheek. I do not deserve you. That is my choice to make, Vela said with a smile. And I choose you. The announcement was made the next day. It shook the galaxy. The Kiran Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space, had accepted a human into their royal family. A human would stand beside the future empress. A human would help lead an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. Reactions were mixed. Many species laughed. They called it a joke, a mistake, a sign of Kiran weakness. The great forums of the galaxy were filled with mockery. Humans were primitives, they said. Animals with delusions of importance. This alliance would destroy the Kiran Empire from within, but others saw it differently. The old delegate that Tay had comforted at the summit dinner sent a message of congratulations. He said that in his entire life, he had never met a being with a kinder heart than the human named Tay. He said the Kiran were lucky to have him, the Phoenix and Korathi representatives. Former enemies who had stopped their fight at Tay's request sent messages as well. They said that if a human could bring peace between their species, perhaps humans could bring peace to the galaxy. Even some of the great powers began to reconsider their view of humanity. They had seen what one human could do through kindness and courage. They wondered what all of humanity might achieve if given the chance. Tay and Vila were bonded in a ceremony that blended human and Kiran traditions. It was held in the great crystal palace of Kira, under the light of 3 moons. Thousands attended in person. Billions watched from across the galaxy. Tay wore a simple dark suit, as was human tradition. Vila wore a gown of living starlight that had been passed down through generations of Kiran queens. They looked strange together. A tall alien princess with silver skin and purple eyes. A short human man with dark hair and warm brown eyes. They should not have matched, but somehow they did. When they joined hands, Empress Sora spoke the ancient words of bonding. Words that had been spoken for 10,000 years. Words that had never before been spoken for a human. 2 souls become one. 2 paths become one. 2 destinies become one. From this moment until the end of time, you are no longer separate. You are together, now and forever. Vila looked at Tay. Tay looked at Vila. In that moment, the galaxy held its breath. Then Tay smiled, but gentle. Warm smile. And Vila smiled back. Humanity had proven itself. Not through war or conquest. Not through technology or power. But through something much simpler and much harder. Through kindness. Through courage. Through love. In the years that followed, the alliance between Earth and Kira changed the galaxy. Old enemies made peace. Ancient hatreds faded. Species that had ignored humanity began to seek their friendship. The galaxy that had laughed at the primitive humans slowly learned to respect them. And at the center of it all were Tay and Vila, the human diplomat and the alien princess. The couple that should have been impossible. The love that changed everything. They knew their time together was limited. They knew that one day, Tay would grow old and pass on, leaving Vela alone with 1,000 years of memories. But they did not let this shadow their happiness. Every day was precious. Every moment was a gift, and when people asked them if they had any regrets, they always gave the same answer. None. They would say together, holding hands, looking into each other's eyes. Not a single one, because in the end, that was what humans had taught the galaxy. Life was short. Time was precious. And the only thing that truly mattered was love. The alien princess had seen a human and said, "I want him." And the human had answered, "Then I am yours." It was the beginning of a new age, and humanity had earned it, one act of kindness at a time.